I'm at a point in my whitetail hunting career, if you want to call it that, where I really enjoy hunting deer in different parts of the country. My friend Will Cooper has never done an out-of-state whitetail hunt.
Josh reached out to me and asked if I wanted to come out here to Nebraska on a whitetail hunt. And of course my answer was, well, heck yeah, man.
It's the rut. It's the short period of time every single year whitetail hunters look forward to when things just fly off the handle. It's supposed to be the best hunting of the year. It's supposed to be, but sometimes that's not how it goes. On my first trip out here about a month before the season, I just wanted to kind of get a feel for the area. That's one of the first things I'll do when I get to a new area where I'm going to hunt, is I'll spend some time there and I'll try to understand the area as a whole. I deduce that there's probably not a very high deer density here, but some monster bucks have come out of this ranch in particular. A lot of places in the whitetails range just simply do not produce a lot of massive bucks. Some do. This is one of those areas that can certainly pump out some huge deer.
So I think it was back in 2014 or 15 when Josh and I first met. I actually used to work for an outdoor production company at the time, and Josh was coming in for a writers camp that we were hosting for Yamaha. 6 months later, he came back for turkey season, and I got to really get to know Josh a little bit better because we spent a ton of time chasing after turkeys in South Texas.
It's November 3rd, north central Nebraska. Supposedly the rut is kicking off full swing here. Seems like it, at least back home. We're gonna split up this morning. Will is gonna go ahead to a stand just south of the cabin here. I'm gonna head to one a little bit further down the road to the east. Just have to play it by ear and see how it goes. We're just looking forward to getting out there and seeing some deer moving. This morning was quite a start to the hunt. We didn't see any deer, neither of us, neither of our groups. It was an ordeal, to say the least. So a little bit of a rough start. And rolling into this afternoon, we've got a really crazy wind. It's gonna go from west to east right at prime time, an hour before sunset. We think we came up with a plan. We're gonna move some tree stands, more so just for the rest of the week, because we're gonna have some weird winds that we need to shift gears for that we weren't expecting. And then Will's gonna go sit in the ground blind that me and Tyler put out a couple weeks ago. And then I'm gonna go probably hunt from the ground somewhere, but still yet to figure out where that's gonna be. Just made a natural ground blind. Just took some loose brush and some cedar branches just to give us a little bit of cover here.
One of the cool things about getting to share deer camp with a bunch of other dudes is you come back at night and you get to find out from everybody, like, hey, what deer were you seeing? Did you see a shooter? Where'd the deer come from? You know, what was your night like? And then just being able to download all that, process it, and then you get to make a game plan. Aside from all that, just the food, hanging out, throwing back a couple cold drinks with the guys, laughing around the fire, hanging out at night, like all in all, like, that's what makes deer camp so special. We went and hung some new sets in a different part of the property that we hadn't yet really considered. And sure enough, when Will got in there, he immediately started getting into some deer activity. We need to stay here. There's deer here. There's eventually gonna be a buck that comes by this stand and makes a mistake, and we're gonna get an opportunity.
Anybody who hunts whitetails consistently knows, especially with archery, wind direction is critical for every single setup. And we ran out of stands to hunt because we had a very abnormal south wind the majority of the week. So it forced us to get creative. Touch up this edge here, be able to get in there, chop some limbs to make a natural blind. It makes so much noise when you're trying to saw off limbs. First thing we tried was just bouncing around to some different wood lots and rattling and calling for deer. A mixture of grunt calls, bleeding, and then just banging the antlers together. And it actually ended up working on a couple of different setups. Throughout this week, we actually had 3 different sits where we did not see a whitetail. Completely on a whim, as we were running out of places to hunt, I decided to pull my covert cellular scouting camera off the alfalfa field that it was on and move it to a different area where I thought might be a natural travel corridor. I found some fresh scrapes over there, so I hung the camera over a scrape, we freshened it up, and it turns out I started getting pictures of does on that camera that same evening. One of the best parts about traveling to hunt is not just the hunting itself, but getting in to check out some of the local attractions and establishments. And I had heard about a really cool place in the nearby town of O'Neill, so I figured while Will was still in town, we'd swing in there and see what it was all about.
My dad is in the HVAC and commercial refrigeration, so like there's always just a, you know, pile of scrap copper laying around. So I was home for a weekend and started hacking shit apart, and it took like all weekend, but I got a mug built that didn't leak. Over time, we spent about a year once we decided, like, let's try it. Let's see how fast we can build mugs, if we could ever scale this thing. And we had really early on the Omaha World Herald, which would be the biggest probably newspaper publication in Nebraska. A guy came up and did a story. Just, you know, we were building them out of a garage at that point. Within 3 days of that article running, we sold as many mugs as we had in the year before. And they've just been spinning ever since. It's really insane. Like, you build copper mugs in small town Nebraska.
I was waiting for notifications to come in of images on that camera, and no bucks were showing up, but some does were moving through regularly, especially in the morning. So along this tree line is where they were traveling, and then there was just a single tree and some deadfalls with some tall grass within shooting range of that edge. So we built a natural ground blind and decided we were gonna hunt there in the morning. I thought maybe I was sitting high and dry. So going into that 5th morning, my expectations were 0. But I also went into that 5th morning with that mantra of shoot what makes you happy. I've been deer hunting since I was 12 years old. Every single time, it is a roller coaster of emotions, and you just don't know what's gonna happen. After this tough hunt, I am just so thankful to have been given an opportunity to shoot this deer and to do it from the ground. That is something sweet.
I woke up in the middle of the night, opened my eyes and my oh my, dreaming you.
Your mindset, if you're from Texas or in an area where you get to sit over bait like that, has to change and shift quite a bit, because it's a different ballgame. Yeah, I'm going back to Texas with a little bit of a bruised ego, but at the same time, it just makes me more hungry for the next opportunity, whether it's to come back here in Nebraska or it's Kansas, Oklahoma. I don't know where, but it has me more hungry for the next hunt, and that's what I love about deer hunting.
With all these social pressures and social media and that type of stuff, you just kind of get a clouded vision of what the reality is with a lot of the places that you hunt deer. And the important part is that you have a good time and you shoot what makes you happy.
Now I dream of you.